Hi, I'm going to introduce our vital sign monitor today. What are the parameters? From here, this is the blood glucose. From here, that's the SpO2. This is the ECG. This is the blood pressure monitors. This is the thermometers. So, this one is the SpO2 cable. This one, ECG cable. This one, blood pressure monitor, the blood pressure cuff. This is our printer. And this is the barcode scanner. And that's the power cable for the main device. As you can see, this is the SD card slot. What I do is I can take it out. You hear the click. That's the SD card. Put it back in. You hear the click again. And that's the main switch. Turn it on. And then we can turn on the device. Before we turn on and measure on this vital sign monitor, we have to make sure all the accessories are installed properly. Glucose is via infrared. Ear thermometer is also via infrared. For the SpO2, we have to connect these two cables together. And just have to make sure the position and the shape of this cable you have to install properly. For ECG cable, you have to also install properly. For blood pressure, the printer, there are Bluetooth version as well as RS-232 cable version. Barcode scanner, you have to connect here. And the power cable, connect here. And the other end we plug into the power socket. I'm going to introduce what is on the screen of the vital sign monitor. Up here left, this is the ECG wave, the window for ECG wave. Down here is the window for SpO2 wave. On right hand corner, this is the heart rate. And this one is the blood pressure monitor. And this one is the SpO2 figure in percentage. And that's the temperature, ear temperature, and also the blood glucose level. So when we go to the next window, this shows 4 channels. Channel 1, Channel 2, Channel 3, and Channel 5. There are 4 channels for the ECG. The next window, this three channel is the AVR, AV and AVF. Another press, it will go back to main screen. What I'm going to do now is to introduce how to operate on the blood pressure monitor. On this vital sign, you can see down here there is a pump button. All I need to do is to press it. Now we can see that the blood pressure monitor window shows measuring as it's pumping. Okay, now we can see the result. Up here, this is the heart rate result, and here this is the systolic, and down here 89 is my diastolic. And in the middle, this is the mean value of my blood pressure monitor from my last measurement. What I'm going to do now is to introduce how to measure SpO2 on this vital sign monitor. We can see this window, it tells us to check the probe. So before I measure, I have to put my finger in this SpO2 probe. Notice that the wave is coming up and the intensity of my SpO2 value, and also notice that the heart rate is showing from actually the reading of SpO2. And down here the percentage is 98. You can see also on the right side, this is the allowed limit, allowed range. What I said for the upper limit, it is 100%, and lower limits, it's 85%. So that's how we operate the SpO2 measure. What I'm going to introduce now is to show how to measure the blood glucose on this vital sign monitor. So we take this blood glucose meter from the side, and we take strips, insert the strips, okay, now so I'm going to test my blood glucose. It's showing 84 milligram per deciliter. So I eject the used strips and I will put it back in on the main monitor. Notice that my result just showed on here. What I'm going to introduce now is to introduce how to use the ear thermometer to test the temperature. So I simply take this thermometer out and just turn on, and it's ready. So I can directly test my temperature. So my temperature reading is 36.7 degrees Celsius. So what I do now is to discard this probe cover into the rubbish bin and simply put this thermometer back on the vital sign monitor. And notice that the temperature result has gone into this vital sign monitor device itself. What I'm going to do now is to demonstrate how to go inside the setting on different kind of patients and also for different kind of hospital environment. You go into menu And for ID, we can input data for the patient, height, age, weight, gender, and the clinician ID. So how to do it? For patient ID, I can simply input on the screen. This is touch panel, enter. And for height, weight, and all other input, we can follow the same way. Before you leave this screen, you have to save, then exit. This vital sign monitor also supports different other ways to input information and data. For example, we can have this IC card. Simply, when you try to input patient ID, and then I just insert IC card into the IC slot, and then it reads my patient ID directly. Or there's another way, we can use Barcode Scanner to scan. This is to prevent any mistakes from happening from manually input on the screen itself. So what I do now is to save and exit. That's it. What I'm going to talk about on this screen is that all these settings are related to blood pressure monitoring. For instance, the patient size, we can select adult or neonate or pediatric. For method, they are clever inflation or deflation only. For cycling, there's manual or cycling per 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour. For the heart rate source, you can select auto or from the blood pressure monitoring measurements, from the SpO2 measurements, or from the ECG measurements. And on the right hand side, this is the alarm range for different readings on your blood pressure. For instance, the systolic, upper limit, lower limit, diastolic, upper limit, lower limit, and the mean value and the heart rate value. Just remember to save before you exit. What I'm going to talk about here on this screen is that it's all the settings relate to SpO2. For instance, up here the HR beep, the heart rate beep, we can choose to turn it off or turn it on. When it's turned on, it will give beeping sound once it detects the heart rate. And down on the second line, the probe info, we can choose to turn it off or turn it on. When it is turned on, when the device itself is detecting that the probe cover is not on properly, it will give warning sound. And for set seconds on this vital sign monitor, there are different options: 10, 25, 50, 100, or off. Then auto save, we can also choose to save per every 1 minute, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and off. For the heart rate source, we can choose to be from the blood pressure monitor, or the SpO2, or ECG, or auto detect. On the right hand corner here, it's also the alarm range for different. For instance, the SpO2 upper limit, lower limit, and down here the heart rate upper limit and lower limit. Also remember to save before you exit. we can see on the left hand side it's showing temperature unit, so we can select different unit. And down here the blood glucose unit, we also can select different unit. On the right hand side, this is the temperature alarm range and also the blood glucose alarm range. Also remember to save before you exit. What I'm going to talk about on this screen is that it relates everything related to memory. Okay, so from here we can see different numbers and the patient ID and time and date. So whenever you are looking for any specific memory, you can also check the date, relative date and time, and also the patient ID and perhaps which number, and you can select to go into that memory. Specifically, you can find here different parameters. On this vital sign monitor, it will auto save any parameters whenever there are any new readings generated, so it will auto save. You can then select to print or delete. And then there is also another ECG memory, which is also an entirely isolated, separated memory space. As I go in, you can see there are two entries for the ECG memories. What I can do is I can simply choose which memory, and then I can do print, and that's all. On this system screen, it's all related to the system setting. For example, the first one, the group ID, I can manually key in, or I can choose to have the IC card or the barcode scanner. Then they are for instance, second one, display. You can choose to set different brightness on this vital sign monitor. Then for speaker, different volume, sound volume. And set default when you turn on, and save and exit. That will bring the entire vital sign monitor back to the original factory default setting. And date and time, of course I can set year, month, date, and also the time. I'll press OK. For the external device, notice that this window has popped out. The data have been changed. Do you want to save changes? Of course, yes. Then we were in external device. For the blood glucose monitor, this is for me to pair up the blood glucose monitor and device and the vital sign. So I'll put it back in. Oh, it shows error. I'll do it again. It's showing OK. The same we do for the thermometer. Showing OK. For Bluetooth, you can choose to connect with PC or printer or nothing. Save and exit. For the touchpad, this is for to synchronize and to calibrate the exact touch point over a period of time when you are trying to sync this exact touching position. Save and exit. This screen is basically telling different parameter and the relative version. There are different versions here. This screen is related to ECG settings. For the first one, the heart rate beep, you can select to be on, so that heart rate when you are detecting ECG, and when there is heart rate, it will beep. And channel display. This channel display gives you the options to select which channel to show on the main screen. So for the channel 1, you can choose to be the source coming from lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, or off. And same on the channel 2. Save, exit. Lead off info. When it is off, it will not give warning sound. When it is on, and when leads are off, then there will be warning sound. For the lead select, this vital sign monitor actually support different other kind of ECG cable. 5 leads is the one we are using now. They are different 3 leads cable or 5 leads cable. Heart rate source, you can choose to have the heart rate coming from blood pressure, SpO2 or ECG, or auto detection. Demo mode is just a demonstration showing on the main screen. Color, we can choose different color to represent different waves coming from different channel. Save, exit. Amplitude, we can have 2 options here. They are 5 millimeters or 10 millimeters. For the extra setting, this is sweep speed, which is only on for the printer, as there are 2 options, 25 millimeters per second or 50 millimeters per second. Pacer detection is when patient, if they have the heart pacer detector wearing on themselves, you need to turn it. You need to choose on. If they don't have on themselves, you need to choose off. And for the last one, saved files, they will go back to the memory, so you can see different memories there, and select print or exit. Notice on the screen here there is a function called stat. As soon as I press it, it starts to measure my blood pressure value. And notice the time here. Within 5 minutes, it will monitor my blood pressure continuously, and it's now pumping. Okay, so this is the blood pressure results. In about 5 seconds, it will launch again, and it's pumping again. So within 5 minutes, it will measure my blood pressure continuously. So it will keep measure until 5 minutes comes to 0. What I'm going to introduce now is to introduce how to connect the wireless Bluetooth printer with this vital sign monitor. Okay, so first, if I want to print anything, any information, I have to pair these 2 devices. So the printer itself has to look for the host, which is the vital sign monitor. What I do is I turn the printer on, I turn the Bluetooth on. Notice the blue blinking light, which represents the Bluetooth has been activated. on the vital sign monitor, I have to also go into menu, system setting, external device, and down here the Bluetooth option, I have to select printer, I have to save and exit. So after I exit, notice this blue light is blinking. So that means the Bluetooth has been turned on this vital sign monitor. So what I do is I go to memory, I go into the first memory set, and I choose to print. Then the printer prints out all the records on this history memory. I'm going to talk about this button. This button is the silent button. And how does it work? I'll show. I put this SpO2 sensor on. Notice the alarm range is from 85 to 95. Now I can press this to silence that alarm. The alarm has been activated because the range is reading 98% and it's outside of my alarm range. Therefore, it has been activated. Notice this. After I press the silent key, it becomes like a visual alarm. Only after 2 minutes, it will come back again to audio alarm. For the three parameters, ECG, heart rate, and SpO2, you can only silence the alarm function temporarily through this way.